Hi everybody, this is Mark Long and welcome to another edition of the Long Riders. In today's episode, we're tackling the 5 questions that you need to be able to answer in order to produce the best critique possible. For those of you keeping score at home, the 5 questions are: number 1, what's the content of the essay? Number 2, what's the structure of the essay? Number 3, what's the language and voice of the essay? Number 4, what are the ideas of the essay? And number 5, what's your take on those ideas and how they're being presented? The first question you need to be able to answer is, what's the content of the essay? And when I say content of the essay, I mean in the big picture, what's it about? What's it say it's about in the beginning? What's it about in the middle? How does it all wrap up at the end? And along the way, what are the major examples of supporting evidence it uses to prove those points? So the first thing that you need to do is to read the essay and just go through it from beginning to end. Don't worry about making notes or things like that. Just get a basic understanding of what it's about. Then read it again. This time, start to make notes. What ideas show up where? What are the key examples of supporting evidence? And finally, read it a third time, and that's when you're really going to dig deep and see exactly what is showing up where, what the order of the ideas, and exactly what evidence is being used to prove those ideas, along with rhetorical strategies along the way. The next question you need to be able to answer is, what's the structure of the essay? Exactly how is the content being laid out from beginning to end? Now sure, we all know essays are typically divided up into paragraphs, but above and beyond that, are the paragraphs being grouped into individual sections? For example, are there groups of paragraphs separated by a blank space? Are new sections starting with a drop cap? Or are they even just numbered as they move from one chunk of information or collection of paragraphs to another? If that's the case, then number each one of those, count the number of paragraphs that are in that section, and then write out one sentence that actually describes what's going on in each paragraph in that section. If you do that, you can take even a relatively long essay and in the space of one page, compress it down to where you're really hitting the high points. And then you can really see how the information in the essay is moving from beginning to middle to end. Next, you need to come to some conclusions about how the overall voice, tone, and language of the essay is contributing to its impact and meaning. Now look, I'll be the first to admit that voice, language, and tone is a little bit fuzzier than, say, what's the content and what's the structure of the essay. So let me give you a brief example. One of the essays that I've used for years is by Richard Ford from the New Yorker in the mid-90s, and it's called In the Face. And it's about punching people in the face. And I'm not talking about boxing, I'm talking about rednecks hitting each other in the face, usually for no good reason. As Richard Ford says in the essay, when he grew up in the 50s in Arkansas and Mississippi, to hit somebody in the face as a frank-willed act meant something. And what did it mean? It essentially meant you were moving towards adulthood and being a man. Now look, that's not exactly how most people think about hitting other people in the face. And even Ford goes on to show some of the problems that occurred later in life with this mentality. He was at a funeral and one of the other mourners had an excessive style of grieving, and so Ford punched him in the face because the guy deserved it, or so he felt like it. Once, when he was 48, he got in an argument with a neighbor about a barking dog, and that guy hit him in the face, and so Ford hit him in the face until he was down on the ground and helpless. Most of us wouldn't give much thought to hitting other people in the face and its philosophical implications, other than maybe just saying, hey, don't run around and indiscriminately hit people in the face for no good reason. But Richard Ford realizes that this is a part of who he is, and so he investigates it to determine what it means to him. So, while the title of the essay is In the Face, it also has a subtitle, The Metaphysics of Fisticuffs. Metaphysics, meaning an inquiry into the existence of being and knowledge. How do we know, and how do we know what we know, as well as fisticuffs, which is an elevated term for fighting. So on the one hand, he has a lowbrow topic that he's elevating by the use of language in talking about it. So therefore, he shows that even the basest of subjects, the things about ourselves that we would like to deny and not think about, are ultimately just as much or even more important in terms of defining who we are. Once you have a handle on the content of the essay, how that content's being laid out, and how the voice, language, and tone is contributing to the overall meaning and impact of the essay, that's when you're really going to understand what the ideas of the essay are. Now, when I say what the ideas of the essay are, I don't mean in general what the essay is about, because you know what the subject of the essay is. But when I say the ideas of the essay, what are the ideas that are being used to prove the point being made about the subject of the essay? No essay is just one idea. It's a collection of ideas that are working to prove the point the author wants to make about the subject of the essay itself. Once you've answered the first 4 out of the 5 questions, what's the content of the essay? What's the structure of the essay? What's the voice, language, and tone of the essay? And what are the ideas that are being used to prove the point about the subject of the essay? Now we're finally down to it, and that is, what's your take, what's your evaluation, what's your response to what is going on in the essay? Now look, this is the tough part, because like I always say, when you write a critique where you have to respond to a particular point or idea of your own from the essay, this is not an elaborate game of guess what I'm thinking as your instructor. Instead, this is where you have to step up and let all of us know what it is you think about the essay, because now you have the best chance possible to have an informed opinion. Thanks for watching this video, which is the second in a 3-part series about the critique assignment. In the final installment, I'll talk about specific strategies for writing the best critique possible, from the detailed summary to a response supported by outside evidence to the introduction that sets the whole thing up. Now, as I always say, everybody's process of writing, learning to write, and hey, learning in general is all highly idiosyncratic. So, take what you can use and let the rest go by. Until I see you again, I'll be here waiting for you at the Long Riders.